Monmouth, lane 7.
Yeah, so we do have a pretty clean start here out of the men's under 17 Coxed 4. So obviously some of the youngest athletes we have racing this week, the under 17, they will not turn 17 years old. So these are athletes who are likely finishing grade 9 or finishing grade 10, haven't quite gotten into those upper years in high school. Perhaps some of them racing at Henley for the first time, having made this final in the men's under 17 Coxed 4. I'm sure some of them will also have rode last summer, of course, the St. Catharines 4. I believe the defending champions, Coach Mary Rao, taking over the under-17 program this year with Meredith Petrochenko, and of course, her husband, Mike Petrochenko. He's helping us out on the commentary over the course of this week, just taking a bit of a break from coaching this summer, spending more time with their family. So Mary Rao, a bit of a younger coach as well as a younger athlete. She was coxing earlier this week, doing an excellent job because it does seem to be St. Catharines out of lane 6 coming through the first 500 neck and neck with CRI, I believe. So really doing a good job here.
And you can see here, Brent, that these are under 17 men. They look really excited to me. They look like they're ready to race and they're ready to put the foot on the gas and keep it there. I often say, you know, with guys, when I coach men, they'll do whatever it takes. And it doesn't necessarily need to be pretty. It just needs to be fast.
I believe one of my first club coaches here at St. Catharines had a line he was fond of saying was the crew that crosses the finish line first is the crew that is rowing the best. May not look that way, but they have to be. And I think saying that these athletes look excited, that's a great way of describing it. When I was a senior athlete, I remember almost longing for the days of being a junior, maybe not fully understanding the idea and the concept of pacing. The pain is still going to hit you. You're just going to be fearless. You don't know to be afraid of the pain yet, and you're just going to throw everything you've got at it, and that's absolutely what this field is doing. It was still a very tight race coming through the first 500-meter mark. Even Thompson Boat Club in lane 2, certainly in the mix as they were crossing that first kind of 90-degree camera angle that we had at the 500-meter pylon. Really tight racing here, so it'll be exciting to see how the rest of this race plays out.
Again, you talk about pacing. These are cox boats. That means they've got a coxswain driving the boat generally, and I think in all of these crews that the coxswain's in the bow, and their role is to lie down, stay as flat as they can, and do a good job of calling the race. You've got Emily Irwin calling the race for St. Catharines, and she's taking a look out. You can just see the top of her head there. And again, in the red boat in lane 5, that's Community. The coxswain is Rachel Weinberg. The two of them probably exchanging looks, you know, checking to see where the other one is. It does look at the 1,000. That we've got overlap, Community's bow overlapping over top of the crew from St. Catharines in lane 6.
And not to be left out, Fairmount in lane 3 and Thompson Boat Club in lane 2 really hotly contesting the third place position. As they came through the 1,000-meter mark, I wouldn't have wanted to guess between Thompson and Fairmount what they're doing. So Andrew McCumber out of Thompson and Andrew Cooper out of Fairmount, those two coxies likely really eye to eye, as you're saying, likely from the St. Catharines and the CRI boats, but not to be left out, there is certainly that battle for the third place position.
We're in the third 500 now, and this tends to be the part of the race where it's the slowest part of the race for the athlete. So if we broke it down into sections, this third 500-meter stretch, it's a little bit lonely here too. You don't really get a whole lot of interaction. You can't hear the grandstands quite yet, and your coach or your crewmates on the island, they've kind of drifted behind you a little bit. These athletes are all on their own, and all they can do is listen to their coxie and execute their race plan, follow their stroke person, and see where that lands them in this very competitive under-17 men's cox 4 field.
And of course, that is always the nice thing about having the coxie. Sometimes I found as a senior athlete, when you get in those coxless boats, there can be those moments, those stretches in races where you're left to your own thoughts, and that can sometimes be a dangerous place. You're feeling the pain, you're feeling the fatigue. Your brain, your body is trying to tell your brain, I don't like this, I want to give up, I want to stop. And you have to, as a senior athlete, of course, be able to keep that under control. Certainly a little bit helpful to have that external source, the coxie, reassuring you, reaffirming your belief in the training you've done. And that's what these two coxies out of St. Catharines and CRI, I'm sure, are doing, crossing the final 500-meter mark. Really about half a boat to go between CRI and St. Catharines. Not much to give. With 500 meters left, we'll see which crew can outsprint the other and take the gold medal in the men's under 17 Coxed 4.
You're right, Brent. They would have started their finish probably prior to getting to this 1,500 meter point. Community looking like they're making up some distance. Things are getting exciting, and this is junior rowing. You know, you'll see that not every stroke is going to be perfect. They're still learning, and this is part of the learning process. Certainly, racing is where a lot of really excellent learning happens.
It really is. Like, you see the whole field on the screen right now. If I were to pick some crews that are rowing really cleanly, the Fairmount crews, the Thompson Boat Club crews, rowing, I think, pretty cleanly, pretty well, definitely well drilled, clean rowing together. But it is St. Catharines and CRI that are just really getting their bows out in front and battling it out. From this angle, I don't know which one of them is in the lead. It was St. Catharines, the last two checkpoints that we had. CRI might be out right now. Just some pretty aggressive racing here in the red buoys, the final 250 meters, and each of these crews are going to be trying to storm their bow, take the stroke rate up, get the bow surging, the boat running, just try to take as many strokes as they can to get the bow out in front.
You can see their heads are kind of down. Their blade work is kind of, it's not as clean as it was up at the start. But let's see, as we cross the finish line, who's it going to be between St. Catharines, lane 6, Community Rowing in lane 5. That's closest to us in the red boat.
I think it's Community. I don't want to call it again. Maybe, yeah. Oh, man.
Community certainly
Community
celebrating like they've
them.
got the win. So that's really exciting stuff. And again, this is the kind of racing that the people in the grandstands, I'm sure, are very excited to see as two boats charge for the line. It does sound like unofficially Community rowing winning in a time of 6:54.01, about a half a second over top of St. Catharines.
That was some really, that's what I call some gutsy racing. You're down coming into the final 500 meters, not down by a lot, and you give everything you've got. You empty the tank, you take the stroke rate up. Well done to the Community athletes from bow seat. That's Grant Robinson, Duncan Ailes, Owen Loeb, Benjamin Ramsdell, and of course Cox. Rachel Weinberg unofficially taking the under 17 men's Coxed 4. Well done.